All right, welcome everybody to LSPUG. This is our first in-person meeting of the year, and we're glad to have Melissa Hubbard, a Microsoft MVP and author of the book Mastering Microsoft Teams with us. She's going to share 5 reasons to jump aboard the Microsoft Teams love train, and we're really excited about it. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to her.
Hi, everybody. First off, are you seeing just my PowerPoint screen, or are you seeing like anything else?
We see you at the top, and then we see your screen at the bottom.
Oh, okay, so I'm probably gonna have to close this. All right. Can you still see me?
Yep, we see you and the screen.
Okay, cool. All right, so thank you for having me. One of my favorite user groups on one of my favorite days, Valentine's Day, to talk about one of my favorite products, Microsoft Teams. I have to take these glasses off now because I can't really see my computer. So today we are going to give an overview of Microsoft Teams and then talk about what's really great about it and 5 reasons you really should start using it now if you are not already. So I am a project manager with a company called Witham Digital. I'm based in the Washington, D.C. area. We do a lot of intranet and cloud deployments. We're focused on Microsoft technology. We've been doing Flow and PowerUps work, and now we have moved into the Microsoft Teams space where we're really finding a lot of customers want to start using Microsoft Teams but are a little unsure about how to go about doing that the best way. I did write the book, Mastering Microsoft Teams, which is an end user guide, how to use the product, as well as a way to plan user adoption and governance. I'm a Microsoft MVP focused in Flow. I come from a SharePoint consulting background, and I did a lot with SharePoint designer workflows. So when Flow was released, I started using it pretty early on, and I blog pretty heavily and speak at a lot of different conferences and things like that. That's enough about me. Just a little bit more about the company that I work for. We mainly have private sector customers. I had originally started off having federal government customers in the DC area, but you don't really get to use the new cool stuff when you're doing government consulting. So it's been pretty cool to be more on the cutting edge. Like we have developers working on bots. We do a lot in Azure. We have 4 MVPs on staff that are in different MVP categories. So we have a good relationship with Microsoft where we can find out information that we need. Yeah, so that's enough of that. And at the end, I'll have you help me with Q&A, Nate, at the end. But if someone has a pressing question, if you want to write it in the chat box, then Nate, read it to me. That's fine too. I don't mind being interrupted. Will that work on your end, Nate?
Yep, that's perfect.
All right, yeah, so don't be shy. I want to have fun today. I'm leaving for vacation after this presentation to go to California, where I'm speaking at Silicon Valley Microsoft office on Flow. And it's a product that really does bring joy to my work. So I definitely want to have fun today, and feel free to bring your questions. So what Microsoft Teams is and what it can do. What some people at first, when Microsoft Teams first came out, they're like, okay, you're giving us another collaboration tool. What is this now? We have SharePoint, we have Yammer, you have this, that. What is this Teams thing? So Teams, the way I think of it, it's a platform or application for a group of people to come together and get work done together. Excuse me. It's really, that's the simplest way to put it. Teams uses a lot of the different Office 365 products underneath, but the application being used brings together communication with your teammates, as well as the work products, and keeps everything in context together. And I'm really not going to spend much time on slides because it really makes much more sense once you're just in the app looking at it. I do feel that Microsoft Teams is the answer to the changing modern workplace, and that's why it's become so popular so quickly. We're using 4 times as many devices per year. Well, Teams syncs between different devices seamlessly, as well as having a mobile app. We're 45% of us use social tools at work. 72% of workers will be working remotely by 2020, and 5 generations are working together in one place. We're on twice as many teams, and 80% of employee time is spent collaborating. So we're not just in the office anymore, maybe working with 1 or 2 people to complete a task. We are, we're working sometimes globally together to complete a task, and we need to be collaborating, sharing, communicating the same way that we did when we were just sitting in the office together, handing papers to each other. It really, all of the different types of communication and encounters you would have in the office, you can have in Teams, but virtually. So it's the fastest growing business app in Microsoft history. These numbers, that slide was actually a little bit old now, so I'm sure that this is, these numbers have increased greatly. But there's a lot of organizations, both big and small, that have started using Microsoft Teams. What I think is going to happen this year is that I think there's a lot of organizations who have been using it kind of in a pilot at first, and I think this year is when the true big rollouts will happen. So I'm going to go into the app, and I'm also going to make myself presenting so no one talks to me. Okay, so I just opened the Microsoft Teams app. You can use Microsoft Teams from your web browser. However, there is a few limits to doing that, and I don't know, I don't really like that experience anywhere near as much as just using the app. So with my day, I'm a project manager. I open up Teams and I start looking through my project teams. So before we even talk about teams and channels, I'm going to talk about the first reason you want to jump on the Microsoft Teams love train. And that is, it provides a place to collaborate with your team through chats, calls, discussions, meetings, document collaborations, all in one application in real time. And the in real time piece is like, that's what drives it home. So first off, Microsoft Teams will eventually be phasing out Skype for Business Online. Microsoft's already put limits on any new Skype for Business Online rollouts for new customers. There is still Skype for Business on premises, but Skype for Business Online is going away. So even if you don't want to use some of the collaboration features of Microsoft Teams, you still can use the app for those Skype for Business functionality type things. So over here, you have your chat and your meetings. So picture Skype for Business. You're talking to one of your coworkers and you close the window and you've lost what they've said. To try to retrieve that is a really big pain. With Microsoft Teams, it stays all in one location and it's persistent. It doesn't go away. So all of your chat messages are here. When someone writes you a new message, it pops up in your bottom lower screen, even if you don't have the app open at the time. And any files that I've shared with Kalpana will show up here. It can show where in the organization she falls. So an organizational chart, and then this is all the activities she's done. So you can be a little stocky there. I'm not sure about this activity tab here. That's actually new. So we click. Sorry, someone just came to my door. I don't know why. So if I click Files, this shows all of the recent files I've been working on. And when you are in chat, sorry, I'm going to jump around a minute. So when you're in chat and you're sharing files, those get saved in your OneDrive. When you're using Teams, it's actually using SharePoint for the files, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But from here, I can video call and audio call Kalpana from this chat area, just similar to how if you had a Skype for Business window open, you could voice call. You can share screen, and you can actually blur your background and your screen. Let me see if I can get it to do it. I might crash my computer. Never mind, I forgot she said she was going somewhere. I thought I could preview it to show you the background blur. Okay. Anyways, so you can have group chats and then actually name the chats. And you can have contacts here, your favorite contacts, create a new one. The calling piece of Skype for Business, where you can actually see, all of our teammates are using this. She just saw this message and is messaging me right back. My team like lives and breathes in Teams. If you in Skype for Business, if you have a certain calling plan, you can. Oh, she's calling me. Hello? Hey, hold on. Can you do your black background blur? I'm trying to. Okay. It looks blurry. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Cole. So you can see on the side, it's blurry over here. Yeah. So you can blur your background and hide your kids and stuff like that. Thanks, Kalpana. Bye. All right. Okay, what I was saying is that when you're using Skype for Business and you want to call someone's phone number, you can type in their cell phone number and call if you have the right calling plan. Teams is the same way. You can't call out without having a special calling plan, and then you would see this little phone right here that says calling. Meetings is another piece where even if you're not using the collaboration portion of Microsoft Teams, you can still be using this for meetings. You can create meetings from the application or from your email. Similar to how you can go in Outlook and create a new meeting and add Skype for Business, you can add Microsoft Teams. The calendar, this is only my calendar that's showing. There's been a lot of requests for a group type of calendar for a team, and I think there's stuff that will be coming for that. But the calendar here, this is just my agenda. And I schedule a meeting. I can just invite people from within my organization to have a random meeting that I need like 4 people to join. Or I could invite people who are part of a channel. And we haven't talked about channels yet, but channel is like a segment of a team. So if I select that, everyone who's part of a channel will get an invite. And then the meeting, that meeting information will always be in context of that channel. And when you're doing a meeting in Teams, there's the option to record, and that uses Stream on the back end. And there's also the option to take meeting notes. And if you take meeting notes, it opens a wiki, and that wiki will live in that channel. So especially if you have a recurring kind of status meeting, something like that, you can have your notes all in one place and see the different dates you held the meeting. It's pretty easy to capture who attended. There's a lot of just the same features as Outlook, scheduling assistant. Here you could have this set up to have meeting rooms here if you do that from the Office 365 admin area. And okay, that's the main things I wanted to talk to you about with communicating and calling. So let's go to reason number 2, that you should be jumping aboard Microsoft Teams Love Train. Your tools are all in one place. SharePoint, PowerPoint, OneNote Planner, Excel, and even third-party apps can be brought together in a workspace. It integrates with other Microsoft and third-party services. So I was recently at Microsoft Ignite tour, and I went to a lot of different Teams sessions, and the way some of the speakers from Microsoft were referring to Teams is that they were calling it a client for Office 365. It's a platform to bring your tools together to work. This is the main application that you'll end up working out of once you've fully adopted Microsoft Teams. You really won't realize how much time you're saving until you start using it. For me now, it's hard to think about working on my projects without having Microsoft Teams. So here are the teams, this level in the hierarchy, and then underneath it are channels. So you can have, they just increased it, so you can have 5,000 people within one team. You can invite external guests into a team. When you create a team, I'm just going to pretend to create one. You can name it, and you can make it private or public. If you make it private, then only you have to be invited, and a team owner will have to add members. If it's public, anyone in your organization will be able to search and find it. So we're not going to talk too much about what it is to be a team owner, but if you're familiar with being a SharePoint site owner, that's the best thing I can attribute it to. You get elevated permissions, and you get access to settings for the team that you're an owner of. If you just turn on Microsoft Teams in your tenant and you don't change any of the settings, any one of your users can create a team. And once you create the team, you automatically become the owner of the team. And there's a lot of governance issues that can come about from that. We're really, for every client so far, we've recommended changing that setting so that not everybody could create a team, and instead to build a process to request a team. Okay, so once you have your team created, you automatically get a general channel with conversations and files. The conversations is where you are holding threaded messaging with your teammates. So the best thing it reminds me of is Facebook. Someone writes something or posts a picture or give some information on Facebook, and then people can comment and you can have little threads. So this is really valuable because it keeps everyone on the same page. Anyone who's part of the team can see what's happening and going on. It just really helps people get informed really quickly. You can use GIFs, so depending on the culture of your team and how much fun you like to have, you can do funny stuff. You know, that's important, right? If you're really going to be working together and you don't see each other in the office, to be able to laugh and show emotion through your digital workplace really does help, I think. But that can all be turned off, and also most of the features in Microsoft Teams can be turned off at the site or at the tenant admin level. So the files, this is where the SharePoint piece comes in. When you create a team, you get a SharePoint site collection that is created. You also get an Office 365 group, and you also get an Exchange mailbox. So each channel underneath the team gets a folder in the document library, and that folder is what's being shown right here. And for now, you can't really create any different views here. It's really just meant to be a simple glimpse into your files. I think that's going to change. You can open in SharePoint here. You can also add cloud storage to Box, Google Drive. You know, this can be turned off too. And it works, you know, pretty similarly, where you can do new, do upload. When you upload a document here, it'll show up in the conversations, like this, for example. It'll show up here, and then people can comment on it. Another third-party tool that a lot of people are using is Planner, and you can create a brand new plan right from Microsoft Teams, or you can bring in an existing plan into your team. So if you're not familiar with Planner, you set up these different buckets in your plan. So this is a New York office laptop project. This is a fake project where we are trying to get an office new laptops and make sure everyone has what they need. So the different buckets are kind of the functional tasks that need to happen, and then underneath it, it's the more specifics. Review licensing paper, create communications plan. You can show these were already completed. There's charts that show how many are not started, in progress, late. You can see it on a calendar here for the tasks when they're due. It's pretty nice. It's a really nice, like, lightweight project management tool, in my opinion, and a great way to just keep people on track. And the other cool thing, so you can be holding a conversation about this plan all within Teams. This is called a tab. This whole row here, this is tabs. Each channel has its own tabs. So for every tab, you have show tab conversation. And so here, if we were you know, going back and forth about who should get what type of tabs or tasks, sorry, or is someone overbooked? Do we need to move tasks from one person to another? We could be talking about it right here. If you think about the alternative, say you're using some sort of board like this, you would be probably talking about it in email or in Skype for Business, and then linking to this, and that just will all eventually get lost in context. Whereas here, you're having your conversations about it, and it's right here. So there will be no confusion, and it just saves a lot of time. Oops, what did I do? There we go. Okay, here's an example of the meeting notes that get created from the channel meeting. And just another example of a tab. This is Smartsheet. So this is a third-party product that we are showing a project schedule and working on it right within Teams in a window. So people call these iframes because they're really just displaying and letting you work on information. This data isn't being it isn't being saved in Microsoft Teams. To add a new tab, you go here and you can choose from these different services. Obviously, you have to have this service. In order to connect with it, you'll have to authenticate and put in your password. So there's quite a few, and it keeps adding. And there is the ability to create custom tabs and apps. And you can also create custom bots, chat bots. So let me see if I can find one that I've ever talked to. The chat bots are like you type in a command or you type in a string of text, and the bot will perform an action based on what you're telling it. An example, oh, I know. Where's my Scrum Genius? I had a bot called Scrum Genius, and basically you could configure it so the Scrum Genius would every morning at 10 send a message out to all of the people in your team, ask them for their updates and roadblocks, and then put them in a chart for you as the project manager so you could quickly see people's statuses and if they have any blockers, and make sure everyone answered. That being said, I think it's time to go to reason number 3. Oops. It's easy to share files and collaborate on documents. I can't express how much easier it is in Teams to work on documents together. And I love SharePoint. I started off in SharePoint consulting, and I saw a lot of value just from document libraries and the versioning history and those pieces of SharePoint. So it's like you get that, but then you also get to hold conversations about the file at the same time in one place. So, for example, I'll open up that PowerPoint. You can open up files right within Teams. I find this to be really slow. So if I'm going to work on my files, I'll do it. I usually just open it in PowerPoint or open it in Word. But here's where I can start a conversation about this. And I can mention. Kalpana. So at mentioning, Kalpana will get a notification that I'm trying to reach her, and then it'll show her this file, and she'll see this message, and she won't have to wonder what I want her to do. And we can also be co-authoring on documents. And it'll show here that I messaged her. And again, if I share files in chat with Kalpana, it'll show them here, but they're actually in OneDrive. So when you're sharing files in chat, they're in OneDrive. If you share files in the Conversations tab of your team, they're saving in SharePoint. And do not try to modify that SharePoint library. I know you could probably think of a lot of cool things that you could do, maybe add some more metadata or set some retention policies, rename it, just leave it alone. You can, if you screw up that library and the folders of your channels, it can be really annoying to try to get it working again. Okay, go to reason number 4. Email. Information that would be lost in emails is saved in discussions. So this is a huge use case for talking with clients. How many times have you been working on a project and had a new employee join your team, and then you need to get them up to speed? And even if Nate, he's super organized, I bet he has an onboarding document, something like that. There's still those, there's still probably a lot of files that you have to find and send to that person. There's still probably a lot of emails where decisions were made or processes were laid out, or you know, information, people's contact information that was collected. So then you're forwarding emails. With Microsoft Teams, you add them to your team, and they can now use the search capability, or you can have an onboarding. You can have an onboarding team itself with all of the files in one place, and then they can be added to their teams, and they'll be able to see what everyone has been working on, all of the files, the conversations people have been having about the files, because without Microsoft Teams, if you're working on files together, even if you're if you're being really good and not emailing around different versions, because Nate has already taught you that you should use SharePoint and just send a link to the document, you're still in email talking about a document in an email that is never going to really be associated with that file. So that context will be gone, or it'll take a lot to search it and find it and send it. So just having everything in the one place, and not losing your work, basically, is really, really, really powerful. Reason number 5 is the mobile app. The mobile app for Teams is really, really good. It works seamlessly. I've worked with a guy on my team for over a year, and he's always responding to me on Teams. He's, you know, he sends gifts. He does everything in Teams, and he even takes, you know, the Teams calls, everything. And he just told me the other day that he doesn't even use Teams on his computer ever. He's always on his phone on Teams. So you really can pretty much do everything from your cell phone. It's pretty amazing. You can even do the video calls. They were joking at Ignite Tour of how Microsoft people have been driving, putting their cell phones up on their car and holding video calls. Really unsafe, but it just really works well. So I still have some more time. So there's some other things that I want to talk about with Teams. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So my activity feed is, hey.
Sorry, I'm just slow. When you did the app mention with the document, is there, so for the people who latch onto email long after we try to encourage them otherwise, is there still an option for people to subscribe to email updates when those kind of things occur, or do they have to have the app open or be checking that regularly?
So you do get emails. If you don't go in your team and people are talking to you, you do get emails. Let me see something. So I just went into settings, and you can set up that you will get an email. The thing is, I'm not sure if these are working right, because I have this set up for channel mentions, banner, and email, and I don't ever get emails from that I know of, at least. But that could be just something wrong in my tenant too. But yeah, if you don't go in Teams for a while and people are trying to talk to you, you'll get an email notification. I know that as much.
Okay, and then for the search bar at the top, does that include Windows, just like local files and such?
Does that search files?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's the scope of search?
So Matthew, my co-author Matthew, is so much better at explaining the search, but it does pick up the files. I don't know if it goes into the actual like into the file, searching text in the file, but it just searched this and found this. It organized them by message, people, and files when you search there. And you can filter the results here, like my app mentions, my attachments. So it searches through all the teams that you're part of. Does that help at all?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. And yeah, so this is a command bar and a search bar. So if you just type the /, you'll see all of the different commands. So you can see my recent files. If I do go to, get to a team or channel, see all of my app mentions. Let's see if it'll work. Yeah, so that kind of filters it out here. And in this activity feed, you can filter this too to show, because you know, maybe I don't really care about unread. I just want to see my app mentions. You know, you start to get accustomed to, like, what should I really pay attention to in Teams? And this becomes a big training thing. In my opinion, one of the most important training things when you roll out teams and channels is teaching about the notifications and how to change them. So when you favorite a channel, that's what puts it in this left navigation. I'm part of several other teams, but you're not seeing them there. I hide my secret stuff before this. But if you click more, that's where all my other teams are, and they're not showing up because I've unfavorited them. So if you follow a channel, you're going to get blown up if it's really a busy channel, because anything anyone does in this channel, anything, you will get a notification on your phone. These ones are showing in bold because there's stuff I haven't read yet. If there's not, then I haven't. There's nothing new there. I don't follow any channels, actually. But the thing is if you're part of a channel, it's like what we do for our my development project. Like, we have to do deployments almost every day because we're working on a really quick turnaround. What they'll do, they need to make sure we all see it. Oopsies. Sorry, I pressed the wrong thing. So you can mention the channel. So if I mention the channel, then everyone that's part of the channel gets a notification. You just really don't want to be following too many things. And on your mobile app, there's other settings where you can put yourself in, like, vacation mode, quiet mode. Yeah, you can set quiet hours, which I had to do. To have work-life balance is pretty hard. when your phone is going off and you have team members at different parts in different time zones working, sending you messages all day and night. So the quiet hours is really important. It really keeps you connected, almost a little too connected at times with your teammates. There's something else.
So Melissa, with the vacation thing, if someone goes, let's say, for a week and they're in quiet mode, is there an easy way? Like, what would you recommend for someone catching back up or getting a digest of activity they missed?
What I do is, there's a few teams that are going to be the most important to you. Probably like your project team, or if you're part of a department and there's a team, you'll know which teams are the most important, where you really need to know what's been happening. I would just go through and start scrolling through the conversations. Or if there was like a certain thing that you would search for, then I would search and see what had happened there. That would be my, because even if people are having conversations in the tabs, it'll still show up here in the conversations area.
Okay, and can you selectively subscribe to one of the conversations? Let's say you go in quiet mode, but there's one that's critically important. Could you still get notifications for just that one?
You could do it. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's probably a real vacation.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. But you can save messages for later. Let's see what else is here. Mark is on red. There's an immersive reader. It's kind of cool. There used to be a translate message. Do you know what happened to that, Nate? Did you hear anything? Because there used to be a way where if you're on an international team, you could translate the message, but that option has been gone for me. I'm not sure why. It was really cool at first. Matthew and I had played around with it, but it's gone. I don't know.
Yeah, no idea.
So I'm going to show you. So when you're the team owner, you get access to settings for the team. And you can see the members, any pending requests. So if it's a private team, people can request to join. The channels. Here's where you can delete the channel, edit the channel. Editing the channel is really just the channel name and description. And you can make it to auto favorite. So this will annoy people if you use it, if you don't use it right, because if you auto favorite all of them, then people are going to get clutter over here. But when you're the team owner, you get access to certain settings. And this is also a really important training point for team owners. I teach a session called How to Be a Super Team Owner, because I equate it with like being a SharePoint site owner. You get access to a lot of stuff. You're handling membership. You can change the SharePoint experience. You can turn things off. So if you have a team owner that's kind of going crazy, changing things around, not keeping their team informed, it can really hurt your user adoption, because look at what they can do to the member permissions. They can make it so they can't create or update channels, delete channels, add or remove apps, add or update tabs, connectors. You can even make it so they can't delete their messages or edit their messages. And these two, unless there's some sort of for record keeping or audit reasons that you can't do that, or that you can't let people delete or edit their messages, I really wouldn't change these, because that's also really bad for user adoption. People aren't going to want to use the conversations if they feel like they typo and can't fix it. You can even make it so that they can't post messages in the general channel. Some people are using the general channel really just as an announcements area. So they don't want everyone to be using it. So also, I wouldn't recommend just using the general channel for all of your conversations and files. Chances are, no matter if you've created a team for a project or for a department or for a function, there's probably different categories of work being done that it's probably better to separate out, especially if it's a big team. It just helps everybody stay organized. Let's see, what else? So for guest permissions, you can make it so they can update or delete channels. Here's another thing. If people are really complaining about getting too many messages, and you notice that there's a lot of people at mentioning the team and at mentioning the channel, you can make it so people can't do that anymore. There's a team code so that you can so that people can join directly and you don't get join requests. And here you can even turn off the fun stuff, but I really don't be that person unless there's a reason to. You can even change how strict you want the content to be, like kind of G rating or what, because some of it can be a little inappropriate. And yeah, if you have invited external guests and they're a serious client of yours, then yeah, you might want to turn that off. But if it's your team, let them communicate and have fun. It's probably not going to hurt anything. I've not heard any stories of anyone doing anything, crazily inappropriate. I'm sure people will, but just saying.
So Melissa, with the guest permissions, can you talk a little bit about how that works with inviting external people like a consultant to get into your organization, and how licensing might have to look for that if you want them to fully participate?
Yeah, so first off, you have your Office 365 admin has to have guest access turned on for the tenant, and then it'll either use one of your licenses, or they have to have another Office 365 license, and then you can invite them in. If you can actually hold meetings and invite anybody. You could use any email address, but that's just for meetings. And then they'll wait in a lobby and get accepted in. But that can be turned off as well. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm trying to think. There's still probably more stuff to show you.
Nothing at the moment. Actually, with the @mentioning channels, so if someone's on two teams and they @mention another one, like saying, if you're a member of this other committee, go check it out, does that hyperlink over to the other team, and does the other team get the notification?
Just thinking. I don't think so.
Okay.
Let me try. Hold on. I'll try to @mention Bethesda Office here. Yeah, it just doesn't find it. What I will say is that it has become a little bit more and more confusing on which tool in Office 365 to do what with, because we have SharePoint. SharePoint's getting better and better and growing, and significant investments still seem to be happening in SharePoint. And we were taught to collaborate there and work on our documents together. And then we have Yammer, an enterprise social tool, where even if it's people that you don't work with every day, you can try to share knowledge and have these communities of practice type of concept. There's that, you have Link, where you can talk back and forth with people. And now you have Teams. And for Teams, it's really it's like project based, like small team based. But the thing is that was the initial messaging. Now Microsoft has increased it so that you can have 5,000 people in a team, and you can automatically make it so everyone in your organization is part of a team called an org-wide team. So it's really started to stir the pot as far as, well, what about Yammer then? Because if I can create a team just called with them announcements or with them IT community of practice, and I can invite everybody from my team or everybody from my organization of 5,000 people, and then I could have different channels for different types of announcements and things, and you can search it and you can have these threaded conversations. It starts to become a little hard to think why you would use Yammer as well. But you can actually hook Yammer in. If you have an active Yammer, you can add a tab and bring it into the team, which I also just think is weird. But it's really like, if you have a tool that people are already gaining a lot out of, you definitely don't want to take something away. Like, if people are heavily using Yammer, I really wouldn't take it away and say, no, you need to use Teams. But it might make sense then to, I guess, have a tab for Yammer so they can use Teams and still use the Yammer that was really popular for them. Have you gotten many questions about that, Nate? What's happening with Yammer and when to use what when?
I think we're pretty early in this still, so we're still on-prem, and we just started looking at Office 365. So at this point, we can kind of control the conversation around which tool to use when, and I hope we don't get too much confusion there.
Yeah.
How about you, Greg? Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, Greg says he has Yammer hooked into ServiceNow, but you might be able to do something similar in Teams.
Oh, okay. Huh. Hooked in with ServiceNow. There is a connector where Teams can be used with Microsoft Flow. So Flow is the business process automation tool and data sync tool with it that comes free with Office 365. So I don't know, for example, if you had a planner here and you wanted to save different tasks to a SharePoint list when it was completed, you could create a flow to do that. So your data in Teams isn't just stuck in Teams. It could always be moved using Flow to another service if there was some sort of requirement in that way. I talked a lot to the Teams product team at Ignite Tour, and because my question is if you have a really big organization and they want to roll out Teams, you get the site collection for every team. Should that also be their SharePoint team site collection that they just use for other more SharePoint, creating lists and libraries and things like that? And they said that's not what they're recommending because of the risk of the team configuration or the team site configurations getting messed up and then not working with the team. So that's kind of important to note. Was this helpful? Is there anything you feel like I've missed? I never end early, and I'm like 4 minutes early, running out of things to say. It's weird for me.
Yeah, this has been really helpful, Melissa. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. If you have any questions after, feel free to get in touch with me. Pretty easy to get a hold of on Twitter, email. Nate has my contact information. And I just really appreciate you having me. And again, happy Valentine's Day.
Great. Thanks so much. And for attendees, next month in March, we'll have Matthew Bailey who is the other co-author of Mastering Microsoft Teams, and he'll be talking about careers in Microsoft technologies.
Oh,
Thanks
yes.
again, Melissa. Appreciate it.
Are you going to give out the prizes that I sent?
Oh, yeah, we have one person in person.
All right,
wins the jackpot. All right.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.